welcome to the Saturday Morning Nerd Show. I'm Marcus Blake, your host, and with me, as always, is the brewing sailor, Mr. Brendan Smith.
Hello, nerds.
And we've got Chad Womack from the Electric Jellyfish Podcast and Close-Ups.
Salutations, guys.
And Jimmy Alford is back with us for round two and probably some more because we got lots of movies to talk about and things that are just going on in the nerd universe. And Jimmy and I got to geek out about the Mad Max movie anyway, since we got to see that a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. So, a little bit of nerd news, things that are going on. Obviously, the big gaming news is they finally dropped the reveal of college football. It's coming back July 19th. You can get early access July 15th. So, on Monday, July 14th at 11 a.m., do not talk to me. I will be online trying to figure out my way through this. It's the one EA game I'm actually spending $100 on, so I can get the early copy. But we're actually going to get to play college football again. And thanks to Brendan for sending out that video of the critic who got to play it early. I had a chance to watch it, and that was great. And it just made me...
It actually looks like EA might have not have screwed something up for the first time in, I don't know, a decade.
I know, right?
Give them a chance.
I mean, yeah. There's still going to be Ultimate Team bullshit. I mean, we know that. You know, they're going to have their microtransactions. So they're going to have their slot machines. I'm sorry, surprise mechanics. So you know but I don't have to actually deal with any of that crap because I'm just going to be playing Dynasty and Roll to Glory.
Yeah.
And my creative school's in it, so I'm happy with that. The wear and tear system actually looks interesting. So yeah, it looks like they've done a really good job recreating just like the entrances, you know, the running down the ramp at Clemson, you know, the hitting the play like a champion sign at Notre Dame, all these little things that make college football great.
Yeah.
So I'm actually interested in it, although I'm not spending the extra $30 to play 5 days early because I just refuse to do that. I refuse to give EA that much money. I will play it a week later and I will enjoy it just the same.
We'll see what we might be able to get a few copies from EA. We're working on that, but
I'm oddly principled about certain things. I mean, you're talking about the guy who won't drive on North Texas toll roads because I refuse to give my money to the NTTA. So, you know, I just will leave 20 minutes early. Screw you. Yeah.
I completely understand. But it's great that this game, we are, you know, essentially 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away from this game. And I'm like, who's even going to play Madden this year? I love the fact that they do have where you can get the Madden and college football bundle. And it is actually a pretty good deal because you're actually only paying like an additional $35 for Madden, which that's all the game is really worth to get the updated roster and
yeah, we know the graphics aren't going to be updated. So
right. I mean,
the stadiums might not even be updated. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know if Jimmy knows this, but Jimmy in Madden 20, if you look at the upper deck of most of the stadiums, the banner around the upper deck, it still says Madden 19.
Yeah.
Because they just copy and pasted everything and forgot to change the logos.
Honestly,
paying for that 25 on the box.
A very long time.
Yeah.
That's not anything new.
No, it's very underwhelming, you know, every year. I think the most fun I've had in Madden was literally taking a team and moving them to another city. Like I actually took the Redskins, and yes, we still call them the fucking Redskins because that's what they are. But I moved them to Dublin and became the Celtic Tigers.
What?
I took them all the way to the Super Bowl. No, it was a lot of fun. I had more fun doing that than I did anything else. Anyway, hey, the Celtic Tigers are in the NFC East, just a little further away.
Way east, yeah.
But anyway, also a little bit of gaming news. I know for a while Microsoft was teasing that they weren't necessarily going to do this, but we all knew they would. Yes, the new Call of Duty game, Black Ops 6, will be a day one Game Pass game. So for the first time ever, us Xbox players will not have to fucking pay for a Call of Duty game.
I would like to say something about the Redskins real quick. Only in America can white people be offended by a logo that's an actual Blackfoot chief drawn by an actual Blackfoot artist.
Yeah.
Pearl clutching.
Yeah. I know. I mean, if you want to start complaining about being too woke, well, I'm like, anyway.
So about the Call of Duty thing real quick. So basically you're saying that this is going to be the first time that Xbox players won't have to pay for this same game again that they bought the last time?
Pretty much. Yeah.
That's a lie.
Oh my God.
It's a new Call of Duty vision. The lie detector test determined that's a lie.
Bring out Maury Povich on that one.
Yeah.
I'm just excited that this is, with all the stuff that they push out, not having to spend $70 to try and, play this game, which I haven't in a long time. I mean, we don't.
That sounds like remember the old Guinness commercials? Not spend $70 on a shitty game? Brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry.
Look, I feel like Call of Duty may be getting a little bit backwards, though. I mean, it seems like everyone is doing the $70 game plus microtransactions, and they're going back in time a little bit by giving the game away for free and then only doing microtransactions. I feel like they're trying to go back in time a little bit.
Hey, I'm okay with that because I don't spend the money on the microtransactions, and whether the campaign is decent or not, and basically the last 3 campaigns have not been, because you're just regurgitating the other, Modern Warfares. But I'm like, cool, whatever, do what you want to do. I will certainly play this game and do the zombie mode and multiplayer and have fun with it for a little while it's free on Game Pass. And that's the way it should be.
Speaking of free games that they're just giving you microtransactions throughout it, Aspire, and I know they've been taking a lot of hits lately with that freaking debacle of the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection that came out a few months back that they just got a drubbing for. The long languishing in development hell Star Wars Hunters dropped yesterday. Like it preloaded on my Switch like a week ago.
Like a fart in the wind.
And I actually
I'm sorry. I've been playing Battlefront since day one. I didn't even know that game was coming out. So that tells you about like how popular that game's going to be.
I remember seeing the ads for it because it was just on Switch and mobile. I think those are the only platforms that it's on.
No wonder.
And I played it while watching the Acolyte last night, and I'm like, this is a lot more interesting than what's on the TV.
Yeah. And we're going to get into our impression of the first 2 episodes a little bit later in the show. But anyway,
One last gaming note. I just wanted to mention, if y'all didn't know, Sony, the South Korean lords that are Sony, have decided to start dropping their God of War titles on PC. Did y'all hear why they're doing it? They're hoping to attract PC players to buy PS5s.
Yes. Because there's always so many PC players that run out and buy a console.
Well, not only that, but I mean, look, I've got all 3. Like I got PC, I've got although mine desperately needs to be upgraded, but that'll happen next year. But I've got Xbox, I've got PS5. Dropping a PS5 exclusive on a PC is not going to make people want to buy a PS5 because it's on the PC. Not dropping a PS exclusive on the PC is going to make people want to buy the PS5 because it's, get ready for this crazy concept, exclusive.
You keep saying that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Jesus, these people! I swear that they make that.
I had to throw that in there.
20 years ago, Bill Simmons, the Boston sports guy, came up with this article, and he goes, "Every corporation needs a VP of common sense, and the VP of common sense should either be a plumber, an electrician, or a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids. Right. And whenever a corporate executive does something stupid, they just go, 'That's stupid. Don't do it.'"
Right. Yeah. It was, oh my God. I had to laugh at that one too, and it could very easily be this week's Sign of the Apocalypse, just for their logic and like, oh, by the way, it's the kind of logic that you see with execs are like, you know what? we need to reinvent Coke
Shit.
because everybody's going to want new Coke. And now this is why we literally have to put Coca-Cola Classic on every.
And new
hold on.
Coke is just a joke about the 80s.
Mhm.
Okay, so hold on. I saw that documentary. I lived that documentary. The CEOs said we weren't that smart. It was a mistake, but it was the best mistake they ever made because that new Coke literally made their sales go just skyrocket. They have a 20% share now because everyone got reminded why they had loved Coke to begin with.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that sometimes you can't accidentally, increase your sales by stupidity, but it does. But the thinking and the logic behind it, I just don't think that's going to equate to PC players running out to buying a PS5.
Look, there's only one new Coke in the 80s that anybody gave a shit about, and it went up their nose, not down their mouth.
Right. Well, anyway. All right. Speaking of which, because that could very easily be this week's Side of the Apocalypse, it's actually time to talk about this week's Side of the Apocalypse. We have a trifecta. The first one, I'm sure you've been hearing the rumors and things have been coming out that the test screenings for Captain America 4 New World Order, or whatever the hell they're calling it this week, is not doing very well. Shocking. So they're having to do reshoots and go over their budget at Disney as usual. So great job yet again trying to fix the Marvel Universe.
Okay. All right, here's my thing, right? So the most recent writer's strike, which happened last year and threw everything into, shit. Now there has to be at least 4 writers on every project, right? Marcus, I'm pretty sure I could lock you in a room with a bottle of Bushmills and 48 hours later get a better script than whatever these idiots came up with.
I honestly should do this just to make some coin to not have to work so hard so I can actually finish my next book. But at the same time, I feel like I would be just like Henry Cavill. No, here's the source material that I've actually read, and you can't do that. No, we don't really like the original. We don't have much respect for it. Oh, okay. So you want the Star to leave and then get Dollar Store Thor to replace me? You think that's going to improve?
Jimmy, so my thing with The Witcher, which he was referring to, is Dollar Store Thor has now become the Walmart Witcher, great value Geralt.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. But I feel like if you did lock Marcus up in a room and had him write a script, it would still come out the same way because there would still be 1,000 fingers in that pie before it ever
Probably.
Yeah. True.
Yeah,
I said he would write a better script. I didn't say a better movie would be made. To be fair.
No. I mean, but at the same time, you guys all know I was doing this during filmmaker interviews. We were talking about being an artist, and this is my favorite, quote about artists, mainly writers. Molière, writing is like prostitution. At first you do it for yourself, then for a few friends and family, but eventually you'll do it for money. Whether it gets made. So I ghost wrote a biography for a hip hop artist 16 years ago. And I don't know whatever happened to it, but I got paid 10 grand and had to get a new radiator for my Jeep. So, it worked out. And sometimes you do that. Sometimes you got to work just to pay the rent. Sometimes you have to be Jennifer Aniston in the Leprechaun movie.
Good.
It's at times like these that I'm reminded of the immortal words of the French poet Charles Baudelaire.
Yeah.
One should always be drunk. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Cheers.
All right. So we're not. Oh, go ahead, Jimmy.
One quick hot sports opinion here. As far as the Captain America movies, there's only been one good Captain America movie, and that was the first one that they made, and all the rest of the Captain America movies have been mid at best. I'm sorry.
I will differ with you on that. I think
I think the first one was mid. I think Winter Soldier is the best one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Bad.
Yeah. When we went, Brenda and I and a friend of ours, Adam, all had an afternoon off, and I had free tickets to the theater, so we went and got beer and watched it, and we were all like, "It's good," but the whole song and dance thing got very annoying.
Like 20 I don't know if it was 25 minutes. All I know is it felt like 25
Right.
minutes,
Right.
and it should have been maybe 2.5. Like that montage did not need to be that long, and I was just sitting there going, "When's it gonna end?"
Well, the actor who played the Colonel, and now I'm drawing a blank on his Tommy Lee Jones. He kind of had help save that movie in a lot of ways. I mean, because literally, like, what really, besides Haley Atwell just being absolutely gorgeous in that movie, he is the bright spot. Like anytime I've gone back to watch it, to me, my favorite line is before Steve jumps on the plane and he's looking back at her, and he just pops in, "I'm not going to kiss you."
I think my favorite line is when Steve jumps on the grenade and nobody else, none of the big strapping guys, they all go dive in for themselves, and he just turns to him and goes, "He's still too skinny."
You're right. Yeah.
Okay, so y'all just gave some really great lines for that movie. I'm sorry, Winter Soldier is just, for me, I'm sorry, it's one piece of unfortunate plot armor after another. That movie should have fallen apart a long time ago. I mean, but
I can see that. But out of all the Marvel movies, I think it is still the best. And you know what's funny? Allison Costa's two oldest kids, we let them do a featured article for the magazine a few years ago where when they turned 13, they got to start watching the Marvel movies. And over the course of a couple of summers, they got caught up. So we had them rate them through, as teenagers. And they both kind of came to the conclusion that really was, the best of the movies outside of Spider-Man, because they're a Spider-Man family. So that was always going to be a little slanted in Spider-Man's favor. But anyway, getting back to this week's Sign of the Apocalypse. So yeah, we're going to turn to the Blade movie that I feel like is the skull and bones of the Marvel universe. We don't know when it's coming out, if it's coming out. We just know
that it's going to have a lead actor.
Right. So Brendan, you were bringing this up. They're on their 7th writer right now.
7th writer, 2nd director, and they supposedly now, after the 6th writer, now have the story locked in. You mean Blade killing vampires? Like, how hard was that? Like, really, that's what you needed to come up with? Come on, people. Yeah. The guy was 45. I said he was too old when you cast him when he was 45. He is now 50. And you still aren't even in pre-production.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you idiots at Marvel? It's Blade. He kills vampires. Oh, but we have to make it about a coming-of-age female empowerment story about his daughter. No, you don't. It's Blade.
Stick a chick in it and make her gay?
Oh, boy.
Well, I don't know if she was going to be gay, but she was definitely sucking on something. She's a vampire's kid. So, like, all I know is all you had to do is have Blade kill vampires in really cool ways. Like, even Blade Trinity got that part right, even though it was a shitty movie. Like,
I mean, at this point, I don't even think the movie's even going to come out.
I don't either. I maybe it will, maybe, but I don't know.
It's going to be like HBO Batgirl, where they'll take the loss on it at this point. Yeah.
What were you saying, Jimmy?
I'm saying, wild thought. There was this thing called a comic book that had multiple issues that they could pull from that came, that exists, just
Witcher syndrome.
It is. It probably could have happened a lot sooner.
Yeah. Dude, it really, this is all you had to do, right? You had to get, you get Mahershala Ali. He's an Oscar-winning actor, 2-time Oscar-winning actor, if I recall correctly. You're going to have, and also, by the way, even though I thought he was too old, he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So, actually an athlete that could pull this off. Cool. Let's do that. Hey, let's bring Wesley Snipes back and have him play Whistler. That would have been great. Okay. Now all you have to do is get a good villain. We just need a good villain. Okay. Go out and get somebody who could be a good villain.
The problem with, again, after Infinity War or Endgame, waiting like a good 5-10 years while you have plenty of time to write scripts, get them right before, but hey, here we are. It's Disney. blah 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 blah. We got
Yeah, and well, and this is, and you know, they do this process called scrapbooking. And so they film 4 and 5 different, it's like a choose your own adventure. And this is why they're constantly going to test screenings and having them fail. And then they go back and they reshoot or cobble things back together and do new effects and whatnot. And that's why these budgets go absolutely bonkers through the roof. You know, you're talking about, we just got the final tally on Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness after years because of, you know, things finally coming out from the UK tax forms, because they actually have to disclose how much they spent on it for UK tax credits. And so it's a lot more transparent, anything that's filmed in the UK. They spent $415 million just in production on Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which means if you don't even account for marketing, they had to make $830 million to break even.
Yeah. Well,
good God.
And by the way, this is why some of the latest lists I've seen of the biggest flops of all time, 4 out of 5 of the biggest flops are all Disney. I mean, just because, and the reason is because, like you said, the budget.
Marvel's Indiana Jones, Wish, Marvel's Indiana Jones, Wish, and Elemental.
Oh, and John Carter from, I mean,
years ago, yeah. And that, to be fair, that wasn't even a bad movie. It was just poorly marketed.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I blame that more on the marketing, because that is still a fun movie to go back and watch.
It's still on the list.
Yeah. So test screenings are a good thing. Absolutely. Okay. And you need those to be able to try to fix your stuff. But I think also test screenings are designed, or should be designed to, like, we have this movie, we don't have much of a marketing budget. We need to know if we should release in the theaters. And my favorite story is, we did a very, very early screening, and they flat out invited press in different markets for Brigsby Bear. Another great little Mark Hamill gem. But the guy from SNL, and the whole plot was he got kidnapped as a baby and lived in a shelter and was lied to that the world was poisonous, and his only source of entertainment was this children's show called Brigsby Bear, which turned out to be made by the guy who kidnapped him, Mark Hamill. And then he gets released and has to figure out how to adjust to the world. But he wants to bring Brigsby Bear back because it was wholesome and inspired him. And so he's going to set out to make a movie. And it was just this very, very heartwarming story. It was funny. Him going to prison and visiting, Mark Hamill and saying, look, I understand what you did, but we still need someone to look over the script and do a voiceover and all that. They didn't know what to do with this movie. And I think we were all pretty much in agreement. Like, yes, you need to do a limited run on this movie. Okay. It will be one of the most heartfelt movies of the year. Okay. It was 2017 when they released it. So we saw it like 6 months in advance. All right. And I'm glad they did that. I'm glad they took the time to listen to it, because, they ended up making more money. It wasn't like a straight to DVD type of situation or anything like that. So the movie got a lot of love from people, in test audiences and them deciding what to do. So kind of a different case than what happens with Disney, where you have to overinflate the budget, rewrite your shitty script. And yeah, here we go. Excuse me. All right. Last thing about this week's Sound of the Apocalypse. It's a TMZ story. It's just kind of funny because it's dealing with a nerd actor, Zachary Quinto, aka Spock in the Abrams universe. Yeah.
AKA Siler and Heroes from Before It Sucked.
Right.
Version of him too.
Yeah. So apparently he's banned from a restaurant in Toronto for basically going all con and not being Spock and thinking that he was bigger than he really is. And they made him wait for a table on his birthday. And he just kind of got belligerent and mean and made people feel uncomfortable. But it was just funny, the article coming out. It was like, he knows what he did, and he's not allowed back until he apologizes. And I'm like, look, dude, I understand nobody likes to wait. You're not an A-lister. Okay. I don't know if you ever really were, but you were in some Star Trek movies. And you should take some lessons from Spock, the character you played, and not Khan. Just like, anyway, it was a really funny story. And do the right thing, man. Realize that you're not as big as you think you are, and apologize to the people.
Don't be a James Corden. Don't be a James Corden.
Yeah.
Can we also point out the fact that he's 47 years old, and while everyone's birthday, is special, but at 47, I mean, don't you start playing the, hey, just say hi to me, or give me a call, it'll be fine type thing. Like, do we have to have the uber special birthday? Like,
so yeah, I mean, Mark has just turned 46. I'll turn 46 at the end of the year. I want dinner with my wife. I don't care about anything else.
I want
for my birthday.
Nap.
Yeah, that nap. Oh,
and not be,
that's a
like,
solid birthday gift at our age. A nap.
Yeah, just leave me alone and let me not have to worry about anything. I don't want anybody criticizing or griping at me, or you're not doing enough. Like, this is my birthday. Can I have one day where you leave me alone?
December 29th is a Sunday this year. There might be some college football games that day. I just want to watch those. Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna talk about some of the summer blockbusters that are out. So we're in that part of the year where it's all the big movies that are coming out. Which one's going to be the best? Which one has been the most surprising type of thing? But before we get to that, it just hit on demand, and you can buy a Blu-ray copy. So we like to talk about movies that are kind of the leading the way when it comes to awards. So obviously, Fall Guy or Mad Max probably won't win an award, but hey, they're fun movies. So I wanted to briefly mention Civil War. I did the review on it a few months back, and Chad and I have been talking about this movie. I am going to go ahead and make a personal prediction. Chad, you can agree or disagree with me. I think right now it is the leading picture for Best Picture for the award season right now, just because of the political nature of the story, and with it being an election year and how everything kind of played out in the ambiguous part about the story of they didn't really name a political party and kind of kept it vague that it could be either side. But anyway, you and I were talking about it. What do you think, Chad? Do you think it's going to win any major awards? Do you think it's that caliber of a movie or not?
I liked it quite a bit, but I don't know if coming out in an election year is going to do it any favors. I think if anything, it's going to hurt its chances because everything gets politicized.
Sure.
And I'm not even sure if it's going to matter who wins and who loses this election, of whether or not it sinks or swims when it comes to Oscar votes or Golden Globes or what have you. It was very well put together, but my only issue was that it had some pacing problems.
A little slow at some parts, sure.
It did get a little languid at certain spots, and they really didn't. I don't think they did a lot to hide who they were referring to. You can make an argument either way, but I'm just like,
no. I mean, clearly they're talking about a president who circumvented the Constitution, was in his third term, and they make mention in the movie that he abolished the FBI, and this is why people were revolting, because somebody who circumvented democracy, and but it's also a movie seen through the eyes of journalists who aren't picking a side and trying to get to the story. And as they say in the movie, and I've heard complaints, like I literally heard some women filmmakers that I've interviewed in the past, and I didn't get into it with them on Facebook, but I was like, so the movie's all about a young girl trying to get a good story, and then she inadvertently gets everybody else killed in the movie. And I'm like, I'm sorry if that's not the female character you would have written, but I think you've missed the point of the story as well.
That was your takeaway? All right.
Yeah, I'm like, of course you have the young naive reporter who's trying to get, or photographer who's trying to get the great shot and whatnot. And I'm not going to give away the ending, but she didn't choose for that character to die. The character themselves chose to. Anyway, I am just throwing it out there right now that when it comes to awards, the being politically correct, looking for the movies that are poignant, and I get why Oppenheimer won, and stuff like that. So like I totally get all of that. However, I just think it's one of those movies that's going to be talked about in the year and should be talked about.
Oh, it'll definitely be talked about just because of what it is and what it represents, and the cautionary tale that it turns out to be.
Yeah. Probably my biggest complaint, though, and I told people after our press screening, I'm like, if any of you play Call of Duty, the whole final part of the movie of storming the White House, yeah, that's Modern Warfare 2. I swear to God, they literally just pulled that shit out of the game and threw in some journalists. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Flashbacks. I was
right. It's an amazing game, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure I've played this before. Anyway.
I do feel like the movie probably has a couple of things that go against it. It did get a nod at South by Southwest, by the way, for an award. It didn't win, but it did get the nomination for the audience award, I believe. My thing is, it's like you don't have the right big names with a political movie to get award buzz. Like you don't have like an Oliver Stone, attached to it. And if you don't have the right, if it's a political movie, if you don't have the right director, like at least producing it or something like that, I don't think anyone who has anything to do with awards is going to pay any attention.
Right, and the only thing that might work in its favor, didn't Alex Garland say this is his last film? Like he's not going to direct anything else after this?
Yeah, I don't think he's directing, but he's doing the script for 28 years later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to quit being a writer. I just don't think he wants to direct anymore. He's not giving up like filmmaking or anything.
Yeah.
So what movie doesn't have the director behind it, but does have a cast that might put it over the top is, or at least get it into contention for discussions, depending on the slant of how it tells its story, is Reagan. I don't know if you guys have seen the list of people that are in Reagan.
Yeah. I know, and it's another. I mean, we're obviously going to see it, and I'm sure Dennis Quaid will be good. But it obviously.
Well, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like you got Penelope Ann Miller, Nick Searcy, C. Thomas Howell, Kevin Dillon, Mina Servais, John Voight. So I mean,
but
Robert
it's also
Xander Berkeley.
But it's the anti-leftist Hollywood. That's why they're doing this too. That's how they're portraying it as. We can't. We can't make this movie in Hollywood, but it deserves to be. And I'm like, you are talking about Ronald Reagan, who acted like a great president.
It reeks of Oscar bait. It just reeks.
Well, yeah, it does, and it's just, and it also, like I said, it's going to depend heavily on the slant of how the story is told.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but the names John Voight and Dennis Quaid. If this were 15. Maybe 20 years ago, I would agree with you. Nowadays, I would say that they are the opposite of Oscar bait. I would say that they're anti-Oscar. Like they are. Well,
yeah, I mean, they are kind of like
maybe not those two names specifically, but just the assemblage of talent and the story that they're trying to tell. Just kind of
sure. But I mean, Dennis Quaid's like the main. He's like he's Reagan.
Well, and what's kind of hilarious is like I love the fact that you're doing Reagan in this movie. And like what, 15, 16 years ago, you did the HBO movie where you were Bill Clinton, and you were a really good Bill Clinton.
Didn't even think about that.
Well, but I mean, you talk about the politics behind it. I mean, even Quaid is coming out like, the asshole is still my candidate, or the convict is still my. I'm like, dude, nobody cares, but whatever. Anyway, it'll be interesting. I just wanted to make a quick mention of Civil War. If people haven't seen it yet, I think it's going to be definitely in discussion and for award season. And part of the reason is A24, they're the darling studio right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they have all the stuff that they have produced. I mean, it was a real coup for Everything Everywhere All at Once to win. This little indie studio is gotten so much bigger, and they crank out really good stuff. Now, at the same time, some of their indie stuff is like, what the fuck did I just watch? I'm still not over Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson 10 years ago. I mean, that's great you got naked in it, but I'm still not understanding what that movie's all about, but whatever. All right, so we're going to jump into summer blockbuster movies. And before we get to the really big one, we want to talk about the Mad Max movie, the prequel, Furiosa. And I will admit, I am not as huge of a Mad Max fan. I have certainly enjoyed the movies. I enjoyed the last one. But Jimmy, you are probably the fanboy out of this group of Mad Max movies. I'm gonna let you take this one away. What did you think of it?
Well, okay, I tell you what. When I watched this movie, literally, it made me want to go back, and I've watched all the old movies since I watched Furiosa. It is a fun, like you said earlier, it's not going to win any awards.
Sure.
It is absolutely a fun, really fun movie, and it does go so nicely into Fury Road. Like, if you're going to talk about summer blockbusters, the way I would watch it personally is I would want to watch it like back to back.
Yeah.
Like watch it straight into Fury Road, like in one like long, like 5-hour session.
Yeah, it's basically Rogue One to A New Hope. It's that perfect symmetry of movies.
Absolutely.
So,
and go ahead.
Well, I was going to say Anna Taylor-Joy as the younger Charlize Theron. Do you think that she nailed it? Now, here's the thing. We have this thing about Charlize Theron. It's mostly because of Julie Jones. I mean, she is a goddess. She can do no wrong, even if it's kind of a terrible movie, like with Seth Rogen. But
hey.
No, I actually kind of enjoyed that movie.
Now you want to talk about a bad movie with Charlize Theron. Leave the long shot out of this.
But does she do a good enough job to play the younger version?
Yeah. Okay. One thing is the script does her a lot of favors in that, just because she has like 40 lines in the whole movie.
Right.
And Charlize Theron had like 60 in Fury Road. So like between the two movies, they had the two actresses had than Thor did
Chris Hemsworth,
yeah, Chris Hemsworth did in Furiosa. Like literally had fewer lines. So look, the makeup was on point, the costume was on point, the story was on point. The only thing, like, you could, if you squint your eyes, you could look at Taylor-Joy and say that is a younger Charlize Theron, I guess. But I'm sorry, she's not even close to as good looking as Charlize Theron.
Well, she's got that modern Hollywood aesthetic where their eyes are really far set apart, and she looks like Sid from the Ice Age movies.
Exactly what
I told you
calls her Sid every time she sees her.
And it's not just her. Like the chick that played the Little Mermaid in the new live action remake, she's got the wide set eyes. And look, I'm not trying to pick on these girls for it. Their genetics are their genetics, but it's a current theme in Hollywood that all the it girls have these wide set eyes. And right. I'm just like, I'm sorry, if Adam Vinatieri can kick a game-winning field goal between your eyeballs,
Jesus.
Okay, look, it's not that noticeable.
It's distracting. To me, it's distracting. I notice it.
The black makeup that they put on her, it's not that bad.
Honestly, to me, when I saw the poster, it made it stand out more because that black makeup is now drawing your attention to her eyes.
If it makes you feel better, honestly, while she should be the star of the movie, she's not.
Yeah.
Whether anyone wants to agree with me or not, she is not the star of the movie. In fact,
Chris Hemsworth steals that movie. I mean, I know he's a little over the top. It gets kind of annoying.
but that's the way his character.
Right.
It's supposed to be that way.
But unlike Love and Thunder, where the comedy was all over the place and you didn't really know what to laugh, and you're like, I don't know what's going on here compared to other Thors.
And he's come out even and said that movie was terrible. But
yeah, this one, I feel like what he was trying to do in Thor: Love and Thunder, they were basically like, okay, you can do that again in free reign as a villain, and it's going to work this time, and it does. I get that he wears on you, and you are certainly rooting for his death at the end. But he's also good. And you know who he reminded me of? Dennis Hopper in Waterworld.
Oh, geez.
No, seriously, he's the Dennis Hopper of this movie.
I actually can see that.
I can too.
All I got to say is if we're going to keep doing like Mad Max prequels, can I at least get Dread 2 with Carl Urban?
All right, first off, they can't really do another Mad Max sequel.
Oh, do not underestimate Hollywood.
But
Well,
the only
get its ass
reason,
kicked by Garfield, so there's that.
Right.
yeah, the only reason this one even exists is because technically they wrote it when they wrote Fury Road.
Yeah.
And the reason they wrote it was so that Charlize Theron would understand who the hell she's supposed to be.
Right.
So they had this skeleton of a story and this basic script, and they're like, hey, let's turn this into some cash. I mean, and personally, I think it works.
No, I agree. I enjoyed it on the big screen. If you Fury Road is a really good movie. I went back and watched it again after this, and so much that I didn't remember. I was like, it really is good, and I want another Tom Hardy Mad Max movie. I thought they did it. It was so well done.
Well, good news and bad news about that. So supposedly Wasteland is supposed to have Tom Hardy and supposed to maybe someday be made. However, Miller said if this Furiosa doesn't do well, he's probably not going to make another one.
Yeah,
and my guess is he probably is not because it's made 117 million worldwide against a budget of 168 million.
Yeah.
Well, it'll break even down the road, but at the same time, I mean, it's not the kind of numbers that you really want. I think the last one did very well because it was surprising. You hadn't, it had been 30 years since you had a Mad Max movie. You had great action scenes, and it really did kind of tie into the world. So you had a whole new generation that got to experience this really, and you got to do a lot more because of CGI.
The Mad Max movie that actually would make a lot of money would be to bring back Mel and do an old man Max movie.
Yeah.
And the tagline would be, in a world where men die young, beware the old man.
Yeah. And you can certainly do that.
I'd be afraid to cast Mel Gibson, though. I think you just have a crazy Mad Max who couldn't remember his lines. So
I don't know, man.
You mean kind of like a crazy Santa Claus and Fat Man?
I mean,
which I did enjoy.
I mean, he directed Hacksaw Ridge, and that's a really good film. So,
directing and acting, though.
So
yeah,
my take on Furiosa is I really did enjoy it. I think I personally gave it an 8 as it is good. I mean, it's not a great movie. I don't think it's as good as Fury Road, but it's just a fun, great, action movie. Great cast, and the action scenes are great. I mean, all the stunt work and the driving, especially them getting, putting together the vehicles. It works on a lot of levels. But I don't know if it really works as a standalone movie. I feel like, yeah, you have to watch a 5-hour Mad Max movie by doing this first that connect to the first one.
I think you're right, and one of the reasons why you're right is because the pacing in the movie, doesn't work. I mean, obviously, they made the movie. It must work on some level, but it doesn't work honestly because it's a 5-part movie, which is kind of a weird pacing, act wise. And there are some slow parts. Characters are weaving in and out of the thing, almost a little bit random.
Yeah.
And honestly, you could make this an hour and a half long movie, or maybe hour 45, and make it a little bit tighter movie. It'd probably be a whole lot better.
Sure. There's a lot of world building that you have to introduce because it's a prequel. You have to establish the green world, who she was. I mean, where a great little small 5-minute intro would probably work to establish. I mean, they draw that out for what, 20 minutes? And I'm not saying it's necessarily bad. It's just, yeah, we get it. You stole a kid from an oasis. The mothers are, cult-like Amazonian warriors, protecting their children and all that. But you didn't necessarily need all those scenes to tell that world.
Yeah, you see what's going on behind you right now, Marcus? Just look over your shoulder. Just look over your shoulder.
What, your little intro?
No, your shoulder, not mine, yours.
All the prequels that are behind you.
Yeah, no, the scroll from Star Wars. You're playing the Star Wars game, and it's showing the scroll. Jump your ass off that way, and don't belabor your point. Just cut again.
It's a little too much exposition because you want to really introduce Chris Hemsworth's character, why he's in charge, and then you have to establish the plot of him taking over Gastown. And I agree.
But that's the reason why he's the main character of the film and not Furiosa, because we don't even meet Furiosa.
Right.
I mean, like, we don't see Taylor Joy until like halfway through the movie. We see Chris Hemsworth for much earlier in the film. Like they have half the movie is the kid.
So
and the movie is Taylor Joy.
I kind of treat these two movies as watching one of the extended versions of Lord of the Rings. You're going to sit you'd be willing to sit for 4.5 hours to watch something and be able to take a quick break, and you're going to enjoy it. So altogether, it's a great story. That's where I come up. But I think it's still good, and it was great to see on the big screen. I'm glad that we got to see it on IMAX. And even if you're slightly curious or you've seen some of the other movies, go see this movie. It is worth seeing it on the big screen, even if it's a cheap matinee. Okay, it's going to be fun, and that's what these movies are supposed to be.
100%. I mean, like I'm not really I don't really understand why it's not getting more hype than it's getting. I think maybe it's just bad marketing, honestly, or maybe marketing to the wrong people, or something there has to be some reason besides the fact that no one cares. I mean, there are lots of movies that do well.
I mean, to be fair, it is a prequel based off of a character who is not the titular character of the franchise, who doesn't, by your own admission, show up till halfway through the movie. So it is a niche of a niche that released on a really bad, this has just been a bad year for Hollywood. This has been a historically bad year for Hollywood. So people are not predisposed to going to movies anyway. You have a niche of a niche. And then when people go, they're going to be like the main character doesn't show up till halfway through the movie. It's getting a lot of bad word of mouth. So you didn't have any buzz for it going in, and then you have bad word of mouth coming out.
If you had released this in the summer of 2019, when people were excited to go to the movies because of Endgame, and there were other great movies that year,
and if you had marketed, if Chris Helmsworth really is kind of the main character, if you had marketed it that more about him being the villain, which would have been a complete juxtaposition against his Thor character, which is the hero, which would have been interesting to audiences at the time. Yeah, that would have made a big difference.
Yeah, timing is everything.
Run into another problem. And I do mention this in my review. While Chris Hemsworth, this is, in my opinion, the best film he's ever done. I mean, but if you look at all his films, that's not a tall order, because he does mostly just just the regular action movie.
What are you saying there? This is better than the remake of Red Dawn?
Yeah, I am. I will die on that hill.
That's not really. You don't really have to die there. You might just get you might skin your knee. There's nobody's really going to be charging up that hill to fight you.
Right.
You know what this movie really smacks of to me, though?
Timing. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of timing. And that's the worst part.
There could have been better actors that would have played that part, is the only thing I was going to say. Like, Chris Hemsworth was good. He was good in the film, but there are better people who play villains a whole lot better than Chris Hemsworth. Yeah, would have made the movie.
Well, I mean, sure, but you can't cast Gary Oldman in everything.
Or can you?
Gary Oldman.
I mean, the man can only work in so many films at one time. Okay.
So, do you guys? What was that show that Rob Lowe did where he's the TV lawyer? In Fred Savage plays his brother, but the show gets canceled, and he comes back home trying to figure out what he's going to do. So he's going to work at the family law firm because he was a TV lawyer. And every episode was like, "Look, the law says we can't do that." And his one great line, "But what if we could?" And he uses his TV charm to get them out of situations. It's like it was so underrated and ridiculous, just the mentality of a famous TV actor. But what if we could? So to your point, what if we could put Gary Oldman in every movie as a villain? Or Willem Dafoe, either one. I figure. I mean,
I'll tell you what. If you want to stick with Australian actors, like Eric Bana, who was the
Hulk,
Nemo.
Neo, the Star Trek movie, and he was really good. Star Trek movie.
And then, of course, Guy Pearce. Either one of them would have probably blown it out. And both of them Australian.
This is my safety right here, sir.
Right.
And Guy Pearce, by the way, Guy Pearce for an Australian does a pretty good Boston accent.
It's amazing. The
rules of engagement. When he was,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, he was the prosecuting Marine JAG and rules of engagement going up against Tommy Lee Jones defending Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, it's
pretty good flick, by the way.
It's amazing the stuff that he pops up in that just completely surprises you.
Memento is one of those movies you have to go back and watch at least once every couple of years.
Even in what was it? Nope. He was even in Nope, wasn't he? And
he played. But if you want him as a villain, Guy Pearce as a villain, The Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh God, yeah. Yes. So they dropped a trailer for the French version, which I guess is like a limited series, and I'm like, why? Is it just for the French people? I thought we've already established that there's one good Monte Cristo.
I would watch that just to watch it in French.
Well, no, I mean it looks good, but I would watch it for the same reason that I'll watch the French version of the Three Musketeers if Ava Green was in it. So, anyway,
I would watch anything in French if Ava Green was in it.
That's very true. Okay. Yeah, I hear last few thoughts about Mad Max or Furiosa, the prequel. Again, I still say that people should go see it. before it runs out. If you've seen everything else, go enjoy it on the big screen before it leaves. It is definitely worth the price of everything. All right. So the next movie on our list, my favorite movie of the year so far, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So we got to talk some Planet of the Apes here. One thing I want to mention, I have personally been pleasantly surprised by, I don't know if they're necessarily a reboot, I guess kind of a reboot since they did the first one, Rise of the Planet of the Apes back in 2000, I guess 11. Then Dawn, and then War for the Planet of the Apes. And then now we have this latest installment. And again, I don't know whether you call it a reboot or an origin story. I mean, you're dealing with time travel, so, you know, it's...
I think it's safe enough to call it going back to 2011. Let's just call it a soft reboot.
I mean, yeah.
It's its own contained story, and then this new movie really is kind of setting up, pardon the phrase, but its own sequel trilogy.
Well, okay. I don't think that's necessarily true. I disagree with that statement because you're kind of putting it in a bad light. Because this is
I don't mean to make any direct comparisons to the Star Wars. I think it is setting up a new trilogy, is what I'm saying.
Okay,
that is a direct sequel to the previous trilogy.
That I will get you.
I'm not trying to cast aspersions on it.
I mean, I know it's all under the Disney umbrella, but this is way better than Disney Star Wars.
And I do think it told a good story. I do.
Well, there was a lot that I had to go back and remember, like from the original 70s Planet of the Apes movies. Like I love the first one with Charlton Heston, and even the second one is not that bad. But it is to kind of have a great origin story that's a little bit different than the original origin story of Caesar. How he's developed and all that, and to get around all the messy time travel where your parents from the original Planet of the Apes movie end up on the same spaceship back in 1970s Earth, and you're pregnant and blah blah blah, and the kind of a convoluted plot line. It was really kind of ingenious of them developing this idea of where Caesar comes from, where the apes come from, the flu, the pandemic that wipes out most of humanity and stuff like that. But I thought they have done a great job with all three of those movies. Now, Chad, I know you haven't seen Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but, everybody, I mean, would you agree or disagree that the three previous movies were well done for what they are?
Absolutely. I just rewatched them last week because I was thinking I was going to get a chance to see Kingdom this past weekend. The opportunity never itself, but yeah, going back and rewatching it and refreshing my memory on how great that trilogy was. That is a series that to me just got better with each installment, which is rare.
Would you guys agree, Chad? I mean, Brendan, Jimmy, would you guys agree?
Jimmy, go first.
As far as these newer movies go, I mean, there is nothing not to like, honestly. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like, I do harp on CGI with a lot of movies, like even with Furiosa, I would harp on some CGI there. In these movies, man, it's on point. They do it right. They do it. That not only do they do it well, but I feel like they do all of their special and practical effects very well together. The story, and most importantly, the story's there. I mean, I have no complaints.
Yeah, you can forgive a lot effects wise as long as the story's good, as long as the narrative's good, the acting is good. But I do agree with you on the effects. Look, I'm looking at Talking Apes, and there's less uncanny valley than there was in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So, like that wasn't a uncanny valley. That was the uncanny Grand Canyon.
Right.
The uncanny Death Valley.
Like the Marianas Trench of uncanniness. But so this, I'm not the biggest Planet of the Apes fan to begin with. So I just never have been as captivated. Like, I've always appreciated them, but I've never been as captivated by them as some other series. However, I will say I think these four most recent ones collectively represent some of the best storytelling we've had in the past 10 years. Now, Hollywood has drugged that bar down significantly during that same time, and to our collective chagrin. But I really have enjoyed all of these movies for what they are, and I think they do tell a very good, cohesive story. And speaking of which, world building and exposition and getting it out of the way quickly.
Right.
Caesar's dead. Everybody's sad. Caesar's dead. Many generations have passed. These are the new tribe.
Right.
Thank you. You got it out of the way in 5 minutes, and I know exactly what's going on.
Right. You've established that they're still trying to figure out what's going on. The lot has been lost, and they have developed their own lore. And then you made it tell the movie somebody that the Order of Caesar. You bring the elder that is,
Which, by the way, Peter Macon is the new generation Morgan Freeman. I could listen to that man read a phone book.
Right. And you talk about like great villains from the trilogy, Gary Oldman, and then
Koba.
Yeah, no, Woody Harrelson, the human.
Yeah.
Who did the Colonel, who did a great job in the antagonist to Caesar and trying to save his people. And yeah, Koba was great, but I think that you get that story. You get that there's an ape that's just never going to be able to forgive humans. Okay. Like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is actually my favorite because they're trying, and you have such a great cast and stuff. And then you just see people who are never going to understand, they're fanatics about it. But I think what made this movie really good, it is almost its own story with a connection to the past because they don't know that much about Caesar. The stuff that was written down, it's been lost. You're establishing new lore, but you're also connecting it not only that previous trilogy, but also to the original Planet of the Apes movies.
And you're connecting it in such a way where it's loosely connected, so the strands are there, but you give yourself enough leeway that you can take risks and take chances and go in different directions, and it's not going to affect the previous canon, which is one of the big mistakes they did make in Star Wars, because they moved forward. They moved forward so close that they pissed off the original fans because of the way they treated some of the original characters.
Right.
You don't have that. You don't even have that danger of the pitfall here, because the first thing you do is you show. This would be like the equivalent of showing Luke Skywalker's Jedi funeral, and he dies a revered Jedi master, and then we go many centuries into the future, and now you meet Rey.
which would have actually been a better story, but that's a whole nother argument.
A whole nother discussion. But the point is, I'm just trying to point out the differences between the two and how it really worked well with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and it did not work with Star Wars. And so I think it's the difference between competent storytellers and, dare I say, incompetent storytellers.
Jimmy.
I do feel that all of you guys are spot on, and I feel like as far as this particular movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, goes, it's not afraid to be its own contained new society. Like, this is the first time of the 4 films that we get to see them with their own society, not based on humans.
Right.
It is not like a human adjacent. It is theirs and their very own developed thing. And we see very deep into it really early on. And honestly, I mean, it's done so well. It's done really well.
Yeah.
There was nothing about this movie that I didn't enjoy. I mean, William H. Macy's character is kind of weak, and I know he's supposed to be, he's the guy that's given up. But you know what's funny? I loved Freya Allen more in this movie than I did the previous season of The Witcher. And
she's better in this than she is in the entirety of The Witcher, and that's not a reflection of her. That's a reflection, again, going off the material that she was given.
I would say more the previous season with what they're trying to do. Like I really enjoy season 2 of The Witcher and where they were going, but overall, yeah, they give her more. And it is kind of shocking at the end that she is not very trusting, hence why she still has the gun. So there's that kind of tentative, I don't know the word I'm looking for.
Uneasy truce.
Right. Thank you. The only question, here was my biggest argument when I did the review. I feel like in some ways they didn't tell enough because you are moving so far ahead. It's about 200 years after Caesar. I want to know more. Yes, you give me a little bit of everything, but you never offer an explanation really why there's still humans that haven't been affected by the flu, that can still talk, that are living in these like bunkers. Hence, I mean, I get why she went to go get the disc so they could operate the satellite. All of that's clear. But I don't know how you ended up there. I don't know what you didn't do enough to explain your backstory.
See, I'm okay with that in this instance because they're so obviously setting up another movie, and I'm fine with some unanswered questions because it leaves us something to be answered in the next film.
And that's fine if you answer it. However, I'm the guy that wants to know more, and that's the issue that I really have. Is I don't know where you came from. I know. Like, I get where William H. Macy's character is coming from. He's having to give in to the guy that thinks he's a king and, thinks the power's behind this big door, which in a sense that he's right. But it just, yeah.
All right. So those are the things. Those are the only things that I have a problem with. One, in a movie that has so much realism as far as like how the world is deteriorated in 200 years. Suddenly, like, everything falls to shit except for this one group of humans, right? Who's like, how have they not changed in 200 years? One.
Yeah.
And two, I'm sorry, I can't even get a weed eater to last 5 years. How is a gun that's been in a bunker that non-air conditioned?
Yeah, so I'm gonna just let that go because I immediately, as soon as she opened up that thing, I was like, if she slaps a mag into that and goes full auto with an M16 that's been sitting there for 200 years and hasn't had the friggin' hasn't had the barrel cleaned, I know a couple armorers who are just gonna have a stroke and die.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, inside the bunker, it's like nothing age.
Okay, but see, that's the part of the problem that I don't understand the story of. Like, were there people there 10, 20 years before? You don't establish enough to why everything still seems kind of intact and everything, and why weapons work. And these are little details. Okay. I agree that you can't over explain everything, but you have to offer, at least through a couple of lines, some logical sense. 1, 2 lines of dialogue would have literally explained it. Of the main ape, how did you know about this place, or how did you know to go in? I knew the people that were here, or that used to be here, and I knew how to get in. If you explained that you had met them as a child in whatever society you grew up in, that they again, that explains it.
I think that's implied, if not directly shown, because she obviously knew where to go back to, so she was obviously sent out on a mission to find it.
True.
So again, I think that's probably something that gets addressed in the next movie, where
maybe. I'm just saying that's my biggest complaint of this movie, is I feel like I don't know enough to explain. And again, this is where a crawl or a little bit of an intro comes in to explain what humans are going on. Like, you offered a little bit of that. It's 200 years of past Caesar, and it's great the way you opened up the movie. But humans are still very much a part of this world. Some of them can still talk. They're living in and you just offered a part of your plot of getting a device that's going to help them communicate with one another. So for me personally, there has to be more. And you kind of covered up with all this great action and everything. All the scenes that they shot in, the bunker and everything were fantastic. And I love the nod to the original movie with the doll, which makes me think, is that really the archaeological site that they end up at the end of Charlton Heston's Planet of the Apes, 2,000 years in the future? You kind of leave it open where it's questioning, but you have those ties. So like I said, it's probably minor nitpicking for me, but overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie.
Well, okay. I think the problems that you just mentioned would have been easily answered if they had paid as much attention to the set inside the bunker as they did to the world. I think if they had treated the two the same, sure. I don't think you would have had to add any dialogue. I think everything would have been explained, everything would have worked.
Yeah, if they had shown more wear and tear inside the bunker.
Also,
like if you had layers of dust on the tanks.
Sure,
and
absolutely. How about mounds of dirt behind the door that would have blown up against it, making it hard to open? Whatever. I will say I can look past all that. I can. It was a good movie. It was fun. The only thing that I saw that made me go, this doesn't make any sense. And spoilers if you haven't seen the movie, but the very ending sequence when the water rushes in, it defies gravity.
Yeah, it goes up.
Yeah,
for no reason.
Yeah, like they don't show that if there's because the beginning they show that tunnel goes down, that bunker goes down further past ground level down into the sub-basements, so the water would have gone down, not up.
Yeah. Exactly. And they came from up and they went up to escape, and the water went up after them. No, sea levels here, they're all way up here.
I know it's like one of those things that people don't really notice, that they feel like the general audience is not really going to notice, that at the end of the day doesn't make sense. But there's people that are going to notice those things, like that doesn't really make sense. And this is where a little bit of dialogue can explain it. I would have been fine with when she turned on the computer, if they showed the last entry date or like how many years or something like that, where you're like, oh, okay, somebody had been here 20 years before, whatever. So there's little things that you could always do to catch the audience up. And you have to do that when you're setting your story 200 years ahead. Okay. We're going to talk about this in a minute, but the one thing they did right with the Acolyte was at least give you a brief intro of what this society is 100 years before the Phantom Menace. It explained it perfectly. This is what it is. Jedi at the height, blah, 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 blah. You know the world that you're going to be in without even having to be a Star Wars fan. And you have to do those things for the people coming into the Planet of the Apes movies that have never watched all of them. And they're like, hey, this is kind of cool. Like when I did an early screening, not a press screening, but I did an early screening. And when I saw it, there were tons of people in there that I feel like they were really just going to see this movie because it looked cool, but had never seen anything. There was only maybe 3 guys, and I got to talking to them after the screening, who were Planet of the Apes fans, who were asking the same questions I were. We were talking about, is the bunker the same place that Taylor's going to end up 2,000 years in the future? And all the things that nerds pay attention to with the lore. Okay. But I get why they do what they do. You're making kind of a fun action movie for a wide audience. And the guys that are going to nitpick are the smaller audience. I understand, but as a fan, I'm infuriated by it. And I will voice my opinion about that.
The nerd in me wonders if they're actually working towards the original trilogy at all, like, because where it started out with like James Franco and all that, it really wasn't there wasn't like a space travel type of like element anywhere in there, or you know what I'm saying? Like they've never set up anything that would suggest we would have Taylor in the future. I don't know.
I said, I honestly don't care if they do or not. I think the movies have been good enough on their own to stand on their own merit, and you can have the ones from the 60s and 70s and the ones now, and they're both great, and we can enjoy them for what they are. Well, I don't think you need to tie the one into the other.
As we all know from any kind of time travel situation, when you go back, you've already altered it, and there's another branch and all that. So you can. But I agree with Brendan. You don't necessarily need to. I mean, the other Planet of the Apes movies are what they are, and they all work to a point. And
are we going to pretend like the Marky Mark version doesn't exist?
Yes. We are definitely pretending as if that doesn't exist.
No, that piece of shit. There is one good thing about that movie.
It ended.
No, actually, I will say 2 good things. Paul Giamatti should have probably won an Oscar for playing an ape. He was really good in that movie. And one day they're going to have to give him an Oscar. For crying out loud, what does this man have to do to get an Oscar?
Who is that daytime soap opera actress who was nominated he's the Susan Lucci of the Academy Awards. He's been nominated for everything and he's never won, and he's deserved it every time.
Right. But he's like the anti-Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis can do anything. Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis did another movie. We're just going to give him the Oscar.
Daniel Day-Lewis did a movie where all he did was move his left foot.
Yeah.
And he won an Oscar. It's literally called My Left Foot.
I know. Estelle Warren, the blonde, younger version of her in that movie that played the Nova-esque character, she was very good looking in that movie.
And that was all that she was there for.
Yeah, was complete bullshit.
I mean, she was not a actress. She was a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model.
Yeah, I agree.
I always loved the argument that got made that whenever Burton got called on the carpet for getting that ending from a book that Kevin Smith had participated in writing, and Kevin and Tim Burton were kind of warring back and forth with each other. And this, someone asked Tim Burton about this and said, well, anybody that knows me knows that I don't read comic books. And Kevin Smith very sharply, very quickly shot back, well, that freaking explains Batman and Batman Returns then, doesn't it, Tim?
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, like I said, so far so good. And I mean, The Fall Guy has been a surprisingly good movie, a nice surprising hand. We'll talk more of that in the future, but for right now, this has been my favorite summer blockbuster movie, and I will probably end up going to see it again just because of how well they do it. Now,
honestly, I'm not looking forward to much else until Deadpool and Wolverine. So
yeah. So I did have to say this. Owen Teague, who plays the main ape, and I'm drawing a blank on the character's name, so I apologize.
Noah.
No, thank you. I had to remember that we did once upon a time interview ONT almost 10 years ago when he was still a teenager and he was in a movie and it was at the Dallas Film Festival. And it was really kind of a funny story. He was in a movie called Echoes of War with James Bagardale and Ethan Embry. And Ethan Embry was there. We had a really great, fun interview with Ethan Embry. Of course, we were talking about Empire Records and Rex Manning Day, and we were giving ONT a hard time. It's like, now, are you learning how to be a celebrity? You're learning how to do all this because it was one of his like first movie roles. But he was very nice and cool, and I've got to dig that interview up and post it on our website because it's fun nearly 10 years later to see how far they have come and all that. All right, last thing we're going to knock out before we quit is we will do a full review on it when it is done. It is Star Wars. We have to talk about it. We are professionals, even if we're not very excited. But we're going to give you our first impressions of the first two movie episodes of The Acolyte. And all I can say personally is, my God, I hope this gets better.
Yeah, Rolling Stone came out and said the Force is not strong with this. It's basically a snore fest.
Yeah.
And they've seen the first 4 episodes.
Yeah. And that's the thing. No one has seen the end. No press has, because Disney does not release it that way. But if you're halfway through the series and you're already bored, it's like, why don't we?
I'd like to point out that only 37% of people who started Rings of Power watched till the end. So if the first 4 episodes of that bad, and now granted, we don't review anything until we see the whole thing, but if the first 4 episodes of that bad, it begs the question, how many people will see the end?
I'm going to make it to the end. And here's why I'm going to do it. I was having this debate with another film critic who was like, I totally disagree with you, Marcus. I love the martial arts aspect. And I love Bobby Blakely, him and his wife, Rusella, for oh God, I'm drawing a blank on their podcast. My gosh, the Harmony. Anyway, they do it as a married couple, and he's a martial arts instructor anyway. And I'm like, yes, that's great. But Chad, I think you said it best. It is basically like a young adult novel telling an after-school special.
Mm-hmm.
In these first 2 episodes. And the only thing that is good for me is Lee Jung Jae, and I'm probably pronouncing that correct, who's playing the older Jedi Master.
I think you had it right the first time.
Yeah.
Lee Jung Jae.
He is knocking it out of the park. Awesome. Doing a great job. I want to see Carrie-Anne Moss as a Jedi, but if literally you just did a glorified cameo of her and she's not really coming back and all that, then you completely fucked up everything.
Yeah,
no reason to have her.
I just want to know that how 2 twins separated at birth both end up with Rick James's haircut. These are the questions I need answered.
I want to know how many Star Wars fans watched that, thought the same thing, and inadvertently shouted, "I'm Rick James, bitch!"
Hey, bitch.
What does the 5 fingers say to the face?
I like to listen to a lot of stand-up when I'm
cocaine. It's a hell of a drug.
When I'm making shirts. Had a couple of huge orders last week, and I was listening to a lot of Dave Chappelle. But anyway, for me personally, and I am not saying that Amanda, Steinberg is a terrible actress. I don't think she is, but I don't like her in this. She is not a great villain. She is more whiny than Anakin Skywalker playing the villain sister. And it wore on me to where I'm really rooting for your death, not your redemption. Anyway, that's my take on it. So far. Jimmy, I'm going to start with you.
All right. Well, okay. I'm going to throw this out there. It's big. It's kind of a big thing, but I feel like the Star Wars TV, the streaming episodes they make it seems like everyone that they'd come out with should have been a movie. Like Kenobi, in my opinion, should have been one movie.
That's because Kenobi. That's because it was a movie script that they chopped up into 8 episodes.
And I
That's fine.
remade it
And Book of Boba Fett, that was a movie script that they chopped up into 8 episodes.
I remade it into a 3-hour movie. That's way better.
Yep.
All right. So, all right, that's great. I feel like they take their movie scripts, they turn them into series when they're not supposed to, and they take movies that should have been series. Like Solo, I think would have been a great series, a kid's series though, not an adult series. I think it would have been so hilarious as a kid's movie because honestly, I don't think it's serious enough to be I enjoyed Solo. But
I didn't have a problem with Solo. It was a heist movie. It was, it was fine. It was the great train robbery in Star Wars. Okay, cool.
Sure.
I don't have a problem. The biggest problem Solo had is nobody was ever going to be Harrison Ford. Okay, that's your first problem. Your second problem is you came out 5.5 months after The Last Jedi.
Yeah. And you had Kathleen Kennedy hijack it away from Lord and Miller that I think would have made a better film.
Probably. Yeah, I agree.
So I mean, Solo had so much against it.
Yeah, they really did.
Anyway, continue, Jimmy.
I feel like the last time that they got it right was when they did Rogue One. Rogue One, in my opinion, was
And the only series they got right was Andor. Same people.
Yeah, fine. Those work for me, but every other decision that they're making, it's just like, man, you should have flipped a coin. I wish I lived in the alternate universe where I got to see the good version of this.
Yeah.
Those
are called the edited down versions that I'm kind of working on as a side project because I haven't gone back to watch Ahsoka yet until I do my edited version of what I think it should be as a movie.
I actually think Ahsoka shouldn't be edited down to a movie. I think Ahsoka should be edited down to 22-minute episodes, and it should be live action Rebel season 4.
Sure.
I can argue with you there, buddy.
Because there is so much staring at the screen with no dialogue because Dave Filoni doesn't know how to write a 42-minute script.
And you know what? I might actually tackle that because you can still watch that as one long movie.
Yeah, because it's 8 episodes. It's what?
And just
160 minutes.
Movie. Well, yeah. So I mean, I agree.
By the way, the silent staring into the camera or staring off into nothingness is my biggest pet peeve of all time in all movies, and that is the reason why I did not like the Blade Runner sequel. I feel like there was an hour of that in that movie. I'm sorry. I know I just I have to be that guy.
I do think when directors in this in this case when they get so and look, we've often talked, we all love the prequels, but they do have their issues, and a lot of them stem from the fact that George Lucas had gotten so big that he had surrounded himself with yes men, and he didn't have anybody to tell him no. And I think when you get directors and look, Zack Snyder's guilty of this now with fucking slow-mo. Jesus Christ, you could cut out 45 minutes of every freaking movie he does just by cutting half of the slow-mo out.
You're out Michael Bay.
So you're just it gets to a point where directors get so big, they get so much control, and they're so full of themselves that whatever their indulgence is, they overindulge, and that's what happens.
Don't mention my play. I feel like I could do an entire podcast over.
We have.
Disappoints me.
We wrote letters. We wrote letters to Michael Bay about 10 years ago. It was a great episode.
The movies or the Transformer movies or all of the above.
I don't even think we had gotten to the Transformer. Maybe it was the first Transformers movie, but yeah.
Okay, so
anyway,
the one thing I will say about the Acolyte is it's not even necessarily this world. That's not the problem. Yes, tell stories in this world. I mean, if you want to tell the story of, the very first Sith that they're going to come across, that's going to start the seedlings of where we're going to end up in 100 years and blah, 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 that they should be aware, and the Jedi having too much ego, completely ignore everything. Okay, I get that. And it's cool to see Jedi at the height of their power or multiple Jedi fighting all at once, because really you only get to see that kind of, in episode 2, the Great Jedi Battle. But if you do not have good characters leading this cast, then it doesn't matter. And again, nothing against Amanda Steinberg. You are not good so far. Now, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope I change my tune at the end. But so far, you have not grabbed me that you belong in Star Wars.
Here's my only thing about this whole concept. If the Red Blade warrior that they briefly show in the teaser is an actual Sith and not a dark Jedi or something, right? Then every Jedi that it encounters has to die. Because we haven't seen the Sith for 1,000 generations in the prequels.
Or that's something that was like kept a secret. Now, if you're trying to change that lore,
but here's the thing: Yoda was alive at that time. He was the head of the council.
Look, I'm not saying good or bad or whatever. I'm saying there's a way to do it and all that.
Not a way that's going to be accepted by the majority of the fandom.
I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Can I offer the nerdy part of this real quick? So the lore is to have a red lightsaber, you have to kill a Jedi and you have to take his kyber crystal that is then corrupted and use it as your own, and then it becomes a red.
And that's only new lore from Disney, and so is Boba Fett, but you know what?
But I will also say this: if you're going to get into this, I would, as a fan, a longtime fan, I would love for them to, if they're going to do go back in time type of work, go to the old kingdom.
Yeah.
Like Jedi's been around for like 10,000. Go back to proto sabers when they had.
Well, they're supposed to, but it's never going to happen because they're supposed to be doing a Dawn of the Jedi movie directed by James Mangold, but I guarantee you that movie never comes out because he did the most recent Indiana Jones, which is one of the historically worst flops of all time, and I guarantee you that movie never gets made.
Not by him, anyway.
No, it won't get made at all. Like none of these movies that get announced by Kathleen Kennedy ever get made. There's about 14 that I could name off. And they've all been announced or leaked or whatever, and then they either just go on indefinite hold like Rian Johnson's trilogy, or they get shadow canceled like the Weiss and Benohoff trilogy, or they get outright canceled and then not canceled and then re-canceled like the Rogue Squadron movie. So Lucasfilm is an abject mess right now. Mm-hmm. There's no two ways about it. They're an absolute mess.
I think there is one side that fucks everything up and one side that you should just let them do what they want. Even Favreau and Filoni, this is what I was saying last night, even if it's not their greatest hits or their best stuff, it is still better than what you would get with Kathleen Kennedy overseeing anything.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll take average Favreau and Filoni any day over anything that Kathleen Kennedy does. We've talked about it. We're going to keep saying it. She is the biggest problem. She has to fucking go. That's the only way that you can save Star Wars.
She has to go, and about half of the company has to go with her.
Well, I won't disagree with that either. I don't hate, I think the only two good series really, I obviously I agree with Andor, and I cannot wait for season 2. It has.
And Mando seasons 1 and 2.
Well, see, I don't argue about Mando season 3. I really don't. It
didn't do anything for me.
Is it as good? No. But I'm not going to complain about it as I've still gone back and watched it because it's still better than the shit that we've had.
I mean, yeah, is it better than Kenobi and Boba Fett and Ahsoka? Absolutely.
Well,
but it just didn't do anything for me.
If you want to get right down to it, that could have been a movie. You could have told that entire story in a movie.
And that's why season 4 is going to be a movie if it gets made.
Yeah, there's no reason. to continue telling a series. You've told enough that you can, bring them back in movies and whatever. I don't know. I'm glad that we're getting something, but it just,
Okay.
I'm at the point now, it's just like, I don't really care. And it feels like work.
Well, they've done that like 100-year period to death. Like everything really that we've known until the Acolyte, they've done to death. Like everything surrounding, Vader, Skywalker, all of that has been done to death with all the series, all of the movies, everything, right? And like you said, either a lot of people have to go or something just drastic needs to happen. And personally, I'm of the opinion, if you want to make Star Wars movies that actually make money, you need to get away from just pigeonholed by.
We've been saying it for 10 years. They need to bring back Drew Karpyshyn, who used to be a writer for BioWare, and they need to do Knights of the Old Republic.
There you go. Or jump way in the freaking future and tell a brand new story.
Well, here's it.
Like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes did.
Here is something that's interesting. I have brought this up before. I'm the one that's I'm not so apprehensive about the Rey movie. Okay, I don't have much faith in it because of the people behind it. Okay, but I do want to see that particular story and what she does, and I don't think Daisy Ridley is bad or that character is bad, just poorly written. But if you really want to get past all the baggage, do what they did in the expanded universe when introducing characters. Cade Skywalker was like 100 years after Return of the Jedi. That's that's a few generations down the road. If you really want to get past everything, I mean, you could literally have him be the son or the grandson of Rey and not even have her in there and set it off further down the road. And I would probably do grandchild as the new Jedi are coming back. So you are more removed from everything and you just tell kind of what happened. But at the same time, I'm like, I hope they can come up with a story that writes her better than what we have seen. Because again, she's not a terrible character, but I don't know if they're good enough to redeem that to make me care. That's where I come down.
Maybe Disney, maybe they'll lose enough money. Disney will just start like piecemealing it out and like renting the title out to other production companies, and maybe we'll get a decent movie that way.
Hey, you know what? I would be happy if Apple took over because Apple is nailing it on sci-fi.
Oh, Dark Matter is one of the best shows I have seen in so long.
Okay, I gotta say this. I am not done. I've got the last 2 episodes out of our screeners, and I've got to go back and watch it. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know how I feel about it yet, but I'm going to finish it. Silo has been my favorite, though.
Silo is really good. I'm looking forward to season 2.
Yeah, and For All Mankind, that has been surprisingly good as well.
So, I wish I could get it. I keep trying to get into For All Mankind, but for whatever reason, I can't finish the first episode. I have tried to watch the first episode of For All Mankind like 10 times. And I know everybody says it's great. Maybe
the first episode this time and go to 2.
Maybe I should just go to season 2. I mean, I don't know.
Don't feel bad. That happens to me constantly. I can't get past the first episode of something. I abandon it altogether. It's just like everyone tells me I should like Parks and Rec. I can't get past like the first 2 or 3 episodes. I've never seen any of the rest of it, even though everyone's like, you're going to love Ron Swanson. It's like, no.
I just honestly, I've never watched Parks and Rec either. I just watch Ron Swanson clips on YouTube, and that does.
Yeah, you can watch an hour long of Ron Swanson and pretty much get the gist. He is.
Yeah.
Him and the Tammy episodes are probably the best. And again, you can get all that on.
And I already know what you're talking about because Tammy 1 is the ex-wife that scares everybody. Tammy 2 is the ex-wife that's okay, and that's his actual wife, so it's funny. Yeah. And Tammy 1, when she shows up, he pulls out the friggin' go bag of whiskey and beef jerky that he's hidden in the vents at work.
Right, and I feel like I feel like
His
every
masters of bacon, by the way. Every time he says bacon, I have that as a ringtone on my phone.
uh, I feel like every father of like young children, when they have to like watch them all again or they're all alone, is exactly how he, when he was babysitting Diane, Lucy Lawless, this character in the later seasons. Yeah, sure, I can do it. And the next thing you do, you just see him like just covered in glitter and stickers, just downing a bottle of whiskey.
So
Anyway, we will obviously talk about the Acolyte and how it ends and see if our opinions improve in 6 weeks. Probably not, but you know, there's always hoping. But again,
I think I've got a better shot of winning Powerball.
I don't know. You know what? You got to love the irony, though, that we're going to get done with this series, and then within a couple of weeks, we're going to go right into Rings of Power season.
But thankfully, House of the Dragon is coming too.
I know, and that one premieres in about a week or so. So we at least have one good fantasy show that we know is going to be great. All right. We're going to wrap this up, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And we will be back in a few weeks talking about more summer blockbusters and what's going on in the nerd universe. But we've got festivals and other things going on. You know, I think we'll also probably have at least half a show talking about a college football video game, which has been a decade in the works. So very excited about that. I do love the fact that Nerd Show was around for the last version of it on PS3, and here we are. We get to talk about the new one, so we're very excited about.
So put it this: so I was actually working at GameStop as a second job for beer money when the last college football game was still on the shelves. As a matter of fact, I had the punter from the University of North Texas come in and buy a copy because his character was his number was in the game, and he wanted it because of the whole lawsuit and everything that was happening. He's like, "Yeah, I want this. This is my collector item because I'm in the game." So yeah, it's
going to be great. Well, Jimmy, thanks for sticking it out with us this time around. It has been great, and if you have not seen Furiosa, the Mad Max prequel, go see it. Definitely go see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That movie is worth seeing on the big screen.
Agreed.
And we've got some exciting things coming up. But I think, as Jimmy pointed out, you don't really have to see Bad Boys 4. You can wait till that's free if you want to get drunk and watch it. Oh, one thing I do want to recommend a movie real quick as we'll end this. So give me about 2 minutes. If you have not watched the Movie Pass documentary on HBO Max, absolutely excellent about how there was so much that I didn't realize about how it all ended, and the two bozos who basically kicked the two black original owners out.
Yeah.
I'm glad Movie Pass is back. I haven't signed up for it, but I've heard very good things. But I will say this, at least that entire year where they were trying to get more subscribers and they had it for $10 a month, one movie a day, I had 4 accounts going and I sent everybody to go movies. And I could send people in other cities by tricking out using a fake GPS app. And that summer, it was 2017. I know Brendan's wife, Erin, took advantage of that. We saw a lot of shitty movies. Like,
I watched so many movies myself. I was totally 100% in on that.
Yeah. Well, I think we didn't at the same theater, but we both, Erin one afternoon went to go see Tom Cruise and The Mummy, and I did too.
Ugh.
That was terrible. And I actually, my favorite story.
I dodged that bullet.
Yeah, my favorite story. Hey, we all saw Dunkirk on the big screen using Movie Pass because I had 3 accounts, or 4. But my favorite story is going to see the Transformers movie that came out there. I think it was the last night, the second Mark Wahlberg version, and tweeting that this movie is so good for day drinking at the Studio Movie Grill that the CEO Studio Movie Grill retweeted it. And then a friend of ours who was doing marketing for the show asked if she could use that tagline on marketing materials. And at the end of my tweet, thank God I used Movie Pass. See this movie?
It's like this movie's perfect for day drinking. You don't that wasn't a compliment.
But sure, it's a compliment for drinking specials at the Studio Movie Grill. But
is that the movie where Mark Wahlberg literally picks up a beer from a wrecked Budweiser truck, pops it open, and throws it as he's yelling at someone?
Maybe. I don't know. It's the one where you have
blocked most of that movie out.
Anthony Hopkins was in the movie. It was very, very weird.
So did Anthony Hopkins, like, did he, like, had he recently bought a castle? And the reason why I asked that is because Jeremy Irons, the only reason why he did Dungeons and Dragons 20 years ago is because he had just bought an Irish castle and he needed a payday to refurbish it.
Right.
And when I first saw that Dungeons and Dragons movie, I was so disappointed because I had just come off of watching Jeremy Irons in Reversal of Fortune, which he won his freaking Oscar for.
Right.
And he played an amazing Klaus von Bülow. And then he just gave the shittiest fucking bad guy performance of all time. And oh, by the way, he had also previously been a great bad guy in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Right.
And I'm like, what the fuck happened? Then I'm like, oh, he just took this movie to refurbish a castle. Okay, yeah, I could get that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's exactly what happened with Anthony Hopkins. But again,
yeah.
It's
for about a year and a half.
Revenge. He did the same thing. That's why he wasn't there to get his Oscar for Hannah and Her Sisters. He was filming Jaws: The Revenge to pay for his house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
That's the great thing. And that was for about a year and a half with Movie Pass. Everybody, it did work that people were going to the movies, that you got to see shitty movies. You were watching movies more than one. I am convinced that things like The Mummy and that Transformers movie made a hell of a lot more money than they should have, because people were using Movie Pass to go see it again. They're like, I'm going to try it again. Maybe it's not as bad. No, Tom Cruise in the Mummy movie is that bad.
What was it that one guy said that he would walk in, use his Movie Pass to see like 30 minutes of Avengers?
Or like Endgame. Then he had, like he'd go see part of it like on his lunch hour, and then he would use it to go. Yeah, he saw 30 minutes.
It's called Movie Pass Movie Crash. It is so worth your time.
Yeah, and the two guys who came up with the concept and kind of wrecked the industry. And here's the story. To come full circle where you basically get booted out of your own company by two guys who are on trial for basically running a Ponzi scheme. Okay. Yeah, they're awaiting trial for fraud. But who did this? And then he gets his company back in the name when the government put it on the auction block and he bought it back cheap.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is full circle. The great thing about Movie Pass is it's still a very good deal. You still get to see a few movies a month, and it's still cheaper than regular movies. So, I mean, it is worth buying, but it feels more like the AMC CM
Stubs
Cinemark, right? And that's the way.
I just canceled mine. I had been using it, and I just canceled it like maybe 2 months ago, and because since Movie Pass came out the first time, all these other, like you said, AMC's Movie Pass, Alamo Drafthouse does their own, Marcus Theaters does their own, like all these different theaters have started doing their own, and they're honestly all about the same deal as you would get with Movie Pass.
Yeah.
And
it just depends on which one you go to more often than not. If you go to multiple theaters, and I can see why using Movie Pass, but it did start a trend, and it did start a membership club to where you can save on tickets. And because some of these movies that, we have to see as press, there's no way I am paying $15, $17 to go see that piece of shit. Okay. But anyway, check it out. It's the documentary that we recommended. It's absolutely worth it. All right, everybody, we are really out of here this time. So it is time to say goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, guys.
Okay.